With Resident Evil 4 getting the remake treatment, it makes people wonder, what other Resident Evil games are Capcom planning on remaking? Well, we have to think about why in the first place are these Resident Evil games even being remade. So of course, Resident Evil 2 is the first modern era remake of any of these games, and the entire reason why that game was remade was because it was such an old game and fans have been petitioning for a remake of that game for a very, very long time. I'm talking years and years. Now, when they finally remade Resident Evil 2, they saw the success of it, so they pushed out a Resident Evil 3 remake very quickly, which turned out to be kind of a flop because it wasn't as good as the Resident Evil 2 remake, and it felt very much rushed. Now, with that being said, it shows that Capcom is willing to capitalize on an opportunity to make some money, especially when it comes to a game succeeding. So if Resident Evil 4 Remake turns out to be very well received by the fans and it brings in a ton of revenue, Capcom most certainly will remake other games like Resident Evil 5 or Resident Evil 6. Now, I say these two games because it seems like they are making a new continuity with these Resident Evil remakes, and they're trying to lead it up to Resident Evil 7. So in doing a Resident Evil 5 remake or a Resident Evil 6 remake, they can actually connect this new timeline to their other games. So basically, I think they're gonna start with the Resident Evil 5 remake. Now, what are they gonna do when it comes to Resident Evil 5? So if you think about the original concept for Resident Evil 5, it was very different than the actual Resident Evil 5 that we got. Originally, Resident Evil 5 was supposed to be a scarier game than it turned out to be, and it also was supposed to be a single-player game. So I don't know if you guys remember the controversy that revolved around Resident Evil 5 way back when it was announced. Maybe you guys were too young to remember the controversy, but basically there were many people calling Capcom racist and insensitive because in this game you were playing as a white person and in fact you were killing black people. So basically this forced Capcom to change their game. It made them add in Sheva as a playable character, and it kind of changed their vision for the game. Now, they couldn't change Chris because Chris was already set as the main character. They were already marketing the game toward Chris, and they already had a story planned revolved around Chris Redfield. So basically they just added in a co-op character, Sheva, who is of African descent, to try to appease the fans who were upset with them. And it kind of did work, but in doing so, they changed their entire vision of Resident Evil 5. Originally, this game was supposed to be much darker, it was supposed to be scarier, and it was supposed to be a single-player game revolved around Chris Redfield. The fact that they had to add in Sheva as a playable character changed their initial vision, and it made the game more action-oriented because that's just how co-op games tend to be, and they work better as an action game instead of a scary game. So that is why Resident Evil 5 was such an over-the-top action-based game. Now, with that being said, I will say that Resident Evil 5 is probably the best co-op game I have ever played in my entire life, and I can say that with total confidence, but that's besides the point. The entire reason why I'm telling you about this little history of Resident Evil 5's development is because of the initial vision that they had for this game. And if we're going off of Capcom's vision for the remake series, they are definitely going for a darker, more realistic tone, and it seems like the initial vision of Resident Evil 5 would in fact fit that tone if they were to remake Resident Evil 5. With that being said, I do believe that if RE5 were to get a remake, it would be very different than the original game. Now, this is the part of the video where you guys come in. What do you think of the possibility of a Resident Evil 5 remake? Definitely sound off below, I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you guys did enjoy this video, be sure to hit that like button and maybe consider subscribing if you are new to the channel and you want to see more Resident Evil stuff. This is definitely the place to be. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.